Oh hey, welcome back. Have you ever wondered how you might get some of that super trendy and exclusive Mastery and RSD offset bridge action for under $100? Or whether any offset bridge could ever rival the insane value for money offered by the Staytrem? Well, today we're checking out an offset bridge that's handmade in the USA, which takes its cues from the Mastery and RSD, but only costs $90. Is this the best value offset bridge around, or simply best avoided? Let's jump into it to find out. If you appreciate the work I do to stay on top of the latest trends in offset guitar hardware and to thoroughly test every single piece, then please give this video a like and tell your friends about the channel. My last 3 videos have all underperformed and I'm feeling pretty discouraged about it. I'm not sure if the algorithm is cheating offset guitar nerds out of cool guitar content or what the issue is, so please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification to support this little channel and my broken spirits. I upload a new video all about Jazzmasters, Jaguars and Mustangs every other week, and I'm going to continue to review every single piece of offset guitar hardware on the market. Alright then, so who are Dan Wolf Guitars and what do they know about offset guitars and hardware? Well, Dan Wolf is an offset guitar and an offset bridge enthusiast. He makes super nice, custom built, made to order offset guitars which are surprisingly reasonably priced. His guitars come with a huge range of different custom options, finished in distressed nitrocellulose finishes and with one of the coolest headstocks around. It's kind of like a Starcaster headstock had a baby with a Jazzmaster headstock, but a little bit more edgy. You might say it's a little bit similar to the Novo headstock, but I really like the way Dan does it, and it's definitely one of the best out there in my opinion. The premise of the DWG offset guitar bridge is that it's designed to be super stable and reliable with really deep string grooves to keep the strings really firmly set in place. It aims to take all the best elements of the Mastery bridge, but to make it more affordable and more comfortable, and to make it out of different materials and with a different look. It's also designed to need less pitch back than other bridges on the market, so that you can keep a nice low bridge height and maybe do away with shims altogether. It's made using a stainless steel base, brass leg posts, and titanium threaded inner legs. And just like the offset bridge, that threaded portion of the inner leg comes with Loctite pre-applied to make sure that it will never sink or fall down or move or rattle in an unwanted way. With the possible exception of the Avallon, this is the only offset bridge that comes with brass and titanium legs, and it's certainly the only one available for under $100. This really sets it apart from the other bridges out there. The bridge also features stainless steel saddles with a nice deep V-groove in them. So for those of you looking for a non-rocking bridge, but who don't like the tone of the Mastery's brass saddles, or the sharp and pointy edges on those saddles either, then this bridge might just be for you. Now, I actually first saw this bridge back on the 1st of June 2024. Dan posted this really cool photo on his Facebook page of a super cool Ibanez Iceman inspired build with an offset bridge and vibrato. After admiring the creativity of this design and then imagining Paul Gilbert playing one, I couldn't help but notice the bridge. It kind of looked like a Fender Custom Shop RSD mixed with a retro Batman logo, which I thought looked really cool. So I reached out to him and asked him a few questions and we got talking. Dan told me that he was still in the process of refining the design and offered to send me one of the prototypes to test it and to give him some feedback on it. So I've actually had this bridge for absolutely ages. The eagle-eyed amongst you might have noticed it in my YouTube videos and Instagram posts over the last 12 months, so if you've ever wondered what that bridge was, this is it. However, Dan has just officially launched the DWG offset bridge with the refinements that we've made, so it's now finally time for the full in-depth review. The one I have here is still a prototype. It's not exactly the same as the finished product. I'll have to pick up one of those in due course. However, this bridge has been on my guitars consistently for the last 12 months, so I have a very good idea of how it performs. For those of you wondering what the differences are between the version I have and the final production version, the only difference is the size of the saddles. We tested a couple of different saddle designs on the bridge, and the final product has a slightly larger size to the diameter of the saddle. The saddles on the bridge that I have are 1/4 of an inch, whereas the saddles on the final production version are 5/16 of an inch, so just a little bit bigger and more chunky. I think the slightly larger saddles suit the base plate a lot better and will probably give the bridge slightly more mass overall. So the version I have here isn't exactly the same, but it is very, very close. Dan's also working on a second version of the DWG bridge with a different saddle material, so do keep your eyes peeled on Dan's socials for the developments on that second version of the bridge in due course. Okay, so after 12 months of consistent use, what are the positives of the DWG offset bridge? Well, the first one absolutely has to be affordability. This bridge is crazy value for money, especially in the USA, where importing foreign-made goods is becoming more difficult, expensive, and unpredictable. For those of you in the US, it will be cheaper for you to buy the DWG bridge than the Staytrem, and this has finally dethroned the Staytrem as the most affordable boutique aftermarket offset bridge, which is pretty crazy. Plus, they're available immediately without any wait time, unlike the Staytrem, which is up to in excess of a 42-week wait the last time I looked. Also, the fact that it's offering a combination of really high quality stainless steel, brass, and titanium at this price point is pretty crazy, especially when you consider the fact that the Staytrem is just made using bent steel. The value of the DWG bridge here is pretty insanely mind-blowing. I never thought I'd see the day where an American-made bridge would be cheaper than the Staytrem. Also, for those of us in the UK and Europe, this bridge is still insane value for money as well. With the current exchange rate, with the pound doing a little bit better against the dollar than it has for a while, the retail price for the unit of this bridge is £66. For international shipping, we're probably looking at somewhere between £15 to £20. So for somewhere in the region of £70 to £75, the DWG bridge is potentially going to be even cheaper than the Staytrem here in the UK as well, which is pretty nuts. This also makes the DWG cheaper than the Aldridge Jaguar bridge, the High Spirit bridge, the Bensonite bridge, the Trent Guitars bridge, and any of those bridges that I really, really like. The fact that this comes in at under £80 and under $100 in the US is just crazy. Secondly, like any good offset bridge upgrade, the DWG bridge fixes all the traditional problems of the offset bridge design. There's no buzzing with this design, no rattling, no sinking of the bridge over time, and no strings popping out of the saddles. So if you've ever had any of these issues with your offset bridge and you're looking for the cheapest premium option to resolve all of those issues, the DWG bridge might just be the solution you're looking for. In addition, unlike some other aftermarket offset bridges, there are no issues with string skipping in the saddle grooves with the DWG bridge. No matter how hard you pluck or pick the strings with your fingers, the strings just stay really firmly seated in that groove with no issues there whatsoever. So that is really great to see as well. Fourthly, as well as being much more affordable than the Mastery, it's also much more comfortable as well. There's no sharp edges to the saddles with this design at all, and it's very comfortable for palm muting and live playing. You can also get a really good radius set on the saddles while keeping all the grubs set below the saddle surface, even with a 7¼ inch fretboard radius, which is perfect. Fifth, due to the size and the shape of the design of the base plate, and the fact that there's no lips on the front and back like you get with a traditional offset bridge, this means that there is a huge range of intonation available with the DWG offset bridge. For those of you using a wound G string, never fear, because the middle saddle can be flipped over for proper intonation with a wound G. This gives you lots of room for adjustability for different types of string gauge, different types of tuning, and for different types of player, which is really, really useful. Sixth, I've used this bridge primarily on my Mustang, and even though these guitars have a terrible reputation, particularly where the vibrato is concerned for tuning stability, I've been using the DWG bridge with the Mustang vibrato for a year without any notable tuning issues to speak of whatsoever. The seventh positive of the DWG bridge is the tone it produces or imparts onto your guitar. Overall, I've found the tone of this bridge to be bright and lively, and it's really helped out this little Mustang, which acoustically has quite a naturally dull voice to it. And this bridge has really kind of brought out the brightness in its voice, which I really, really like and is a great fit for this guitar. Normally, I would include a tone test in my video, but I'm actually not going to do that as part of today's review because I don't want to mislead anyone. And the reason for that is because the version of the saddles I have are 1.6mm smaller in diameter than the production version. And that's actually a difference of 25%. The production version saddles are 25% larger than the version of the saddles that I have. And because the mass under the strings is therefore going to be increased by 25%, we can reasonably expect that that will have some sort of impact on the overall chunkiness of the sound that the bridge produces, as well as the high-end content of the bridge and the overall sustain of the instrument as well. Now, while admittedly the difference between the saddles that I have and the production version of the saddles is going to be a relatively subtle change, really at this point when we are comparing the sound that different bridges impart onto an electric guitar, we're already in the realm of nuance and subtlety. And so I don't want to mislead anyone about how this bridge might change their guitar's tone by using a version of the bridge which isn't the version you will receive if you buy it. However, if in the future I am able to get my hands on the production version of the bridge with the production saddles in place, then I'll do a tone comparison as a follow-up, and I will compare this bridge with the Staytrem, the High Spirit bridge, the Squier Classic Vibe bridge, and the Bell Rock. That way we'll be comparing it with its immediate competitor price-wise, the Staytrem. We'll be comparing it with what your starting point might be, the Squier Classic Vibe bridge. We'd also be including a non-rocking bridge in a similar price range, or a semi-rocking bridge, being the High Spirit bridge, which I think is $125. And lastly, the non-rocking bridge that I would recommend if money was no object, the super premium Bell Rock bridge. And that will give you a really clear idea as to how the DWG bridge compares to its direct competitors. Moving on to positive number 8, I found the saddle design to produce really nice and really usable behind the bridge notes. The V design just pinches the string nicely, it gives a nice precise behind the bridge note, and is very usable for any kind of behind the bridge playing. Now, the 9th positive of the DWG bridge is something that I have never included as a positive in an offset bridge review before, and that is its modability. Due to the wide flat base plate that this bridge has, and the huge number of aftermarket tele saddles available, I found this bridge excellent for DIY experiments with different saddle options. I'm always tweaking and modding and experimenting with my guitars, and I really like the DIY philosophy. This bridge really helps me to scratch my tinkering itch because it has such a wide range of creative possibilities. There is so much variety and variance in aftermarket tele saddle designs, And I personally really love being able to swap those onto the DWG bridge and just try different things out to see how it works. The DWG bridge is so much better for this kind of experimentation than a standard offset bridge because the base of the bridge is so much wider and there's no lips on either side. So there is so much more room for trying out creative and unusual saddle designs and experiments from different companies. For example, I've recently had the Bensonite Telecaster saddles on this bridge, which Kendall really kindly sent me to experiment with. And these are really too wide to use on a standard offset bridge. If you think about the gap in between the two lips on an offset bridge, that is basically the full width of these saddles. However, they fit on the DWG bridge perfectly, and it's just really fun to try different things like this out. I've also always wanted to try out the Van Dyke Harms monolith tele saddles and the Almsen tele saddles. And you can even get aftermarket Telecaster saddles from Avallon, which are very similar to the saddles that you can get for their offset bridge. The DWG bridge really is the ultimate bridge for DIY experiments. And to be clear, that's not to say that the stock saddles need to be replaced. The stock saddles are excellent and they will work really, really well for every aspect of offset guitar playing. However, if like me, you have an itch to experiment and to try out different things and to just do DIY stuff and tinker with your guitars, you can't get a better bridge for that than the DWG. This bridge is a tinkerer's dream. However, if you just want a reliable bridge that comes with excellent saddles in its stock configuration, then just buy a DW bridge, leave the stock saddles on, and you can't go wrong. And the final positive of the DWG bridge is that it has an original look. As I've said a few times in the past, I think it's really hard to come up with an original offset bridge design that doesn't just look like a Mustang bridge or a Avallon bridge, but Dan has done a really good job here. Of course, you can see the Mastery and the RSD influences in its designs, but I think it does it in its own unique way, which references those beloved and highly sought after bridges, but with its own twist. And I just think it looks really cool. Alright, and is there any room for improvement, or are there any negatives? Well, firstly, when used with these vintage 1969 Fender Mustang thimbles, the bridge still does rock a little bit. It's actually not uncommon for non-rocking bridges to rock a little bit still, and actually this even affects the fabled Mastery bridge. Therefore, when compared with a bridge like the Bell Rock, which is a non-rocking bridge which comes with its own proprietary thimbles to ensure a really fine fit between the bridge post and the inner diameter of the thimble, and which has locking saddles so that no part of the bridge can move whatsoever, the DWG bridge doesn't feel quite as stable or as sturdy as that bridge because there is still an element of rocking included in this bridge design, at least with these vintage thimbles. However, that's not really an apples to apples comparison because the Bell Rock bridge costs twice as much as this bridge, so it's not really fair to compare the two. And like I said, you still see this exact same phenomenon with the Mastery, which costs even more than the DWG and the Bell Rock. So it's really not a particularly significant negative for the DWG bridge, and the amount that it rocks is very, very minuscule. But if you have vintage thimbles like mine at least, you may still find it rocks a little bit. If you want the ultimate non-rocking bridge experience and money is no object for you, then I would recommend that you go with the Bell Rock, or keep your eyes peeled for a big announcement coming soon from another bridge maker. However, if you're looking for a really good non-rocking bridge, which is as stable as the Mastery and which costs less than $100, then the DWG is your bridge. The second thing to say about this bridge is that the aesthetic could be divisive. When Dan announced the launch of this bridge on Facebook, there were loads of people saying how much they loved the way it looked and were asking where to buy it straight away. But naturally, the look of this bridge won't be for everyone. Some people might think it flies too close to the sun when compared with the RSD design, or some might think it looks a bit rough and ready when compared with the shiny chrome-plated hardware that we traditionally associate with offset guitars. Or some people might just think it's too modern in general and doesn't look enough like a traditional Mustang or Jazzmaster bridge. Personally, I think it looks really cool, and especially on Dan's guitars with their slightly modernized offset vibe, the relic finish, and the matching vibrato plate, I think it works really, really well. When I asked my wife what she thought of the look of the DWG bridge, she thought about it for a second and said that she thought it really nicely balanced out the shape of an offset guitar and counterbalanced the uneven aesthetic that a Jaguar, Jazzmaster or Mustang has. So it might not be for everyone, but I think it's pretty cool. Alright then, so with all of that said, do I recommend the DWG offset bridge? The answer is yes, I definitely recommend this bridge. It's really hard to floor it when you consider the value of this bridge, the fact that it's the only real non-rocking bridge available under $100, and the fact that you get all of this handmade in the USA for such an affordable price with an original design and aesthetic. I think this is really, really outstanding. But who is this bridge for then? Well, firstly, if you've ever wondered whether a non-rocking offset bridge might be for you, but didn't want to put down a week's wages for a Mastery, a Avallon, a Descendant Companion, or a Bell Rock, then the DWG bridge is for you. It's affordable, well-made, and unique. And for just £66 at the time of filming, there's kind of no reason not to get one. That is, unless you are a die-hard rocking bridge advocate who will not consider any type of non-rocking bridge. Or if you are a real traditionalist from an aesthetic point of view and you don't want a bridge on your offset guitar that doesn't look like it could have come from a 1960s Fender Mustang or Fender Jazzmaster or Jaguar, then again, this bridge probably isn't the best fit for you either. But for any other player who is curious about a non-rocking bridge, or who is looking for a non-rocking bridge that is cheaper than all of the big names out there, then I would highly recommend checking out the DWG offset bridge. Cool. Alright then, well that's everything for today's video. I would love to hear your thoughts about what you think about the value proposition and the look of the DWG bridge, and if you've tried one of Dan's bridges or one of his guitars before, I would love to hear your experiences with them. As always, if you have any comments about anything I've said or anything you expected me to cover which I haven't said, please do drop those questions in the comment section below and I'll get back to you in as much detail as you would like. We've got plenty more bridge reviews coming, as well as some vibrato reviews as well. So do stick around for more and make sure you've hit the subscribe button and the bell notifications to make sure you don't miss out on those in the future. Alright then, well until next time, look after yourselves, take it easy, and we'll see each other again soon.